Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Tower of Babel Film Club. As always, I'm Julian Mush. I'm joined by Daniel D'Souza.
What's up?
And Jeremy Kozier.
Hello.
And today we're going to be talking about Christopher Nolan's The Prestige. Now, this is interesting because Nolan's on top of mind lately. I went to see Tenet yesterday, so. Ask me all the questions you have about Tenet. I'm happy to answer them.
I don't want to hear a single word.
Yeah,
from you
we're
about
not going to talk about that. I can't believe you brought it up.
I have seen it, though. I did enjoy it. But it will be interesting maybe to later on diagnose maybe where Nolan's come from, especially after a movie like Prestige, compared to Nolan and what he's doing. So, or Tenet and what he's doing now. So. But like I said, we're not going to talk about that. We don't want to spoil anything from Tenet. So I think this is a little bit different than our usual format because we watched the movie independently over the last couple of days. Minus Jeremy, who said, Jeremy, when was the last time you said you watched it?
Probably 10 years ago.
Okay. Even though this is your movie, we had to see this.
You actually chose it.
Right. Okay. But it was your idea, right?
Well, yeah, it was a good idea.
It's a good movie. He's not wrong there.
Well, yeah, it was a good idea. So get used to it. All right. So anyway, that's fine. That's the movie for today. So I think trying to stick to a similar format. Let's try to talk about the movie spoiler free for the first little bit, and then we will jump into spoilers and breaking it down further. Jeremy, since again this was your idea. Why don't you give us your history on the Prestige and why you like it so much and why why it holds a special place for you?
I think it represents what Nolan is capable of with his movies in terms of its intrigue and mystery, its revelations towards the end. And it's one of those movies, like all of his movies, that almost demands a rewatch kind of right after to see what was really going on.
Right.
Once you learn of the tricks later on. But yeah, I just remember being very fond of the acting, the actors involved. I liked the tone, the look of it, the darkness of it. And just the competitive nature between two magicians, which I don't think I've ever seen anything like that to this scale, especially with Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale going at it. And I just think it's just a very clever film, unique film.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's certainly that.
Well, I mean, unique if you don't count The Illusionist, right?
Well, The Illusionist came second.
Yeah, that movie doesn't matter.
I don't know when they actually released it. It was the same year, I'm pretty sure.
It was.
Yeah. I had never seen this movie before. Dan, have you seen this previously?
I had seen it before. I was in a bit of a unique situation. I was kind of in between you guys. So I think the last time I saw it was probably with Jeremy back in the day. So like I knew sort of I knew the twists, obviously the big twists, right? And I knew the movie, but I had forgotten most of the minutia. So I did rewatch it recently, and it was still like half new and half not new to me. So in some ways, I feel like
the best way to watch.
I think it was the opposite. I think I was like spoiled on the big things, and then not spoiled on the little things in
that didn't matter
so
as much.
I don't know. I like the big. Obviously, we're not talking spoilers
yet.
But there's a couple big ones, and those were top of my mind. So I was more like trying to like remember how it was presented the last time I watched it.
Did you remember that it was non-linear in its storytelling?
Yeah. I don't know that was very effective for me. That form of storytelling.
The Witcher, by the way, the first season of Witcher on Netflix also uses a non-linear storytelling format. This is a thing that Nolan also has done other times. And
Memento, for God's
obviously
sakes.
Memento, but is the best example of that. But I mostly agree that I don't necessarily always think it's as effective as the filmmaker thinks it's. What it's what the filmmaker is often trying to do, I think, and I don't know, maybe Nolan had this thinking at the same time, was that they're trying to intentionally create confusion where there doesn't necessarily have to be.
I don't know what I don't know if confusion is the right word, but maybe like mystique or like
Mystery?
they're creating mystery. Right?
Misdirection.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there you go. Yeah.
Right.
Well, isn't it, so? I don't remember too much, but I guess they're showcasing how they're building their performances by
Yeah,
going
I mean,
back and whatnot.
they're kind of like how they're kind of stealing off of one another ideas.
Yeah, but it's about the craft of
Yeah,
the
honing their
magician
craft.
and the tricks, right? So the movie starts with the different phases of the trick, right? There's I don't remember the presentation.
Just-
maybe the
it's-
first part. The second one's the turn, and the third is the
It's
prestige.
like, is it the offer?
Maybe something
Something
like
like
that.
that,
So
yeah.
like the first is what's being presented to the audience. This is you're supposed to look at this thing.
Mhm.
The turn is what changes. That's where the quote unquote the magic or the first magic is. And then but that's not enough. The movie articulates it better. But the third part is that you have to bring something back and give the audience something that they
The pledge.
they really want. The
The
pledge.
pledge. Yeah.
Pledge.
And by the way, this comes from
Presentation.
this. I looked up the 3 parts of Magic Trick, and the quote comes from the Prestige, also from the
There you
IMDb.
go.
I don't know if did they invent that for this? Every magic trick consists of 3 parts or acts. The first part is called the pledge. The magician shows you something ordinary. The second act is called the turn. The magician takes the ordinary something and makes it into something extraordinary. But you wouldn't clap yet because making something disappear isn't enough. And then they go on to the whole thing about prestige and bringing it back.
Yeah.
Which is literally the whole point of this, like the whole core underlying theme. I think what I liked. Do we want to get to spoilers here? I don't know.
I think we might as well. Like again, this is a different format because we're not stopping in between to
Right.
watch the movie, right?
Well, where am I going to put the sounds from the trailer then into the
Beep.
right now?
Yeah, that was the cue.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right.
You
So
got
let's
two
get into
cues.
spoilers
Yeah,
because
you got 2 options.
right. Okay. Well, I can't use the second one, right? Or can I use the first one and there's a joke and it doesn't matter.
Beep. There, you got another one.
Shit. Let's get into spoilers because I think there is lots to talk about here. My first question for you guys is, Dan, specifically because you've watched it more recently, are there too many twists? Is it a little bit too twisty?
It's certainly getting close to that territory. There's quite a few twists. It's cool because you have these two. They're both leading men, right?
Right.
Traditionally, and in the movie they are both filling kind of to a degree a protagonist role, and they both kind of switch back and forth.
It depends on which perspective you're taking.
But the audience switches too
Right.
throughout the whole movie, right? You're kind of like on one guy's side then the other, and it goes back and forth a little bit. At least for me, it did. So they each of their own story arcs has its own monumental twist that changes everything.
That's very true. Well, yeah, but like the last final 15 minutes of the movie have like 2 really big twists that I think one of them makes the movie much better. The other one makes the movie much worse, in my opinion. Now, I don't know which one you think is which.
I think I know, but
we'll go with it. Jeremy, what do you think? Do you think there's too many twists in The Prestige?
No.
No? It's the appropriate amount? Not.
Yeah.
We could go for more, perhaps?
No, it's appropriate enough.
Right, okay. So what I love about this movie most isn't necessarily even like the exploration of magic and magicians. It's the this rivalry between the 2 people that's the most engaging part for me in this movie. And the performance by Christian Bale is so good.
Yeah.
It's so unbelievably good. It makes no sense. And then obviously with Hugh Jackman, it's like obviously the Greatest Showman. It's like it kind of fits that whole that.
no,
that
I mean
same
they
thing.
really are like.
Yeah.
And you have Jason's email up here. I think that's what he's touching on there. But
Mhm.
it is an all-star cast, and that's all the more impressive because they actually earn the name. Like there are all good performances in
Right.
this movie.
Mhm.
David Bowie.
David Bowie.
Yeah, I was saying I didn't really love he's not really in the movie very much, and it's weird that you would use David Bowie for Tesla, but I'm sure there was some reasoning behind that I don't know of.
Apparently he turned it down, but Christopher Nolan flew out to see him and convinced him to be in the movie.
He's barely in it. Like what? You made this big. I don't care. I don't
I
understand.
think he makes his mark.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
He has like
he's-
3 scenes.
But he has an instrumental sort of effect on the movie. right?
Yes, the hit.
And also the other thing to point out that I thought was rather poignant about the movie is that it to me seems more like a metaphor for the Edison versus Tesla thing, right? That's another famous rivalry of these men that were kind of overcome by their obsessions,
Right.
And that so this is being mirrored with the two magicians. It's a different format, but
I do like the time setting, by the way. That the turn of the century, I feel like, is just not something that's explored enough. It's modern, but yet but classical at the same time. I really think it's a cool time. I think that maybe that's where that whole like steampunk vibe comes from.
Yep.
Is that turn of the century stuff? But anyway, that's a whole other thing. But let me just dive into that idea that one of the twists I think makes the movie worse, and I don't necessarily think that having Tesla's machine actually function in that fashion makes the movie better. I don't think it does. I think it makes it worse.
Well, I mean, how so? I mean, it's about a guy who's going to the most extreme possible lengths.
Sure.
Right? And there's so much setting it up with like the idea that he needs to be the man on stage and the man under the stage doesn't matter. It's all about what the audience sees.
Sure.
Like I think they set it up fairly well. I know it is a sci-fi concept at the end of the day.
Well, because it takes this idea of the magician, the act of magic being like an act, and an exchange in beliefs with the audience, and this craft, to being just essentially a trick that he has no control over, that he paid for, that is, and then not only that, is completely unbelievable because it's actual magic, essentially, because they, you know what I mean? It's so, and I think it would be one thing if the movie presented this, Tesla's invention as being like a trappings for what isn't just another illusion, but instead it leans into this "it's real" thing that I think really undercuts I understand, like, there's this whole like murder trial thing that's kind of happening in the background. It's kind of like a C plot until the end of the movie, but I think it undercuts a lot of the drama of the film right at the end. And twists can do that in a good way and sometimes in a bad way, and I think that one doesn't do it for me.
So for you, that breaks the movie, I guess. I don't know, Jeremy. Your thoughts on that, I guess.
Yeah, I don't think it really bothered me at all. I was just so intrigued on what the deal is, like how is this happening, what's going on, that when you find out, it's almost like it's cool, but it's also disappointing.
Yeah,
like in terms of how it's being pulled off.
Well, because it's
how
literally just
people.
because it's like, well, how are they doing this trick? How are they doing this trick? And then and this whole thing, it's like, oh, he's literally just appearing somewhere else. It's like, that's not as.
Well, I think that's kind of the point. The magic itself is disappointing once you know how it's done.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a reveal at the end. Normally, we don't get to see behind the curtain.
Right.
Right.
And it's just so eerie too when you see the visual of all these bodies.
Right.
It's so creepy. Like, it's such a cool visual.
Yeah, and honestly, how is it that different than any of the other tricks, right? Like, he had to get his hands dirty killing doves. There were these contraptions that were created.
Right.
Like, that's a trick. That's somebody using mechanics to trick.
Right,
people.
but that's
how is that any different?
Because it's actual. There's an actual like magical thing happening, or in this case, they're playing it off as it's like some sort of science, but they don't explain the science either. So
you don't have to explain the science behind it. But the idea is that this man is willing to go to these extreme lengths, and this is just a new form of technology that will help him to be a showman.
I guess, but that reveal for me is less interesting than it was a double the whole time, because they do so much work in saying it can't be that, he's doing something else. How's he doing it? And then it drives Hugh Jackman's character like basically crazy,
right? And
then it turns out they went to extreme lengths also, but it was just that there was two of them the whole time. Which, as soon as you understand the bunch of "they were all your hat" thing, that line,
sure. Yeah.
As soon as that happens, you understand the whole murder mystery thing. It's like, oh, okay, that you're now ahead of the movie again.
Yeah,
which it isn't fun in a movie like this. You don't want to be ahead of the film, I don't think. And then with the twin thing, I had no idea that was coming.
Yeah.
Did not for a second expect there to be twins. And I think maybe that without the other one, the other twist doesn't land as well. It's hard to say. There's no control here, but that's how I see it. Anyway. I just think that the concept of there being twins and would obviously reward a rewatch in a really great way, which I would love to do. Now that I've seen it once, like for you, you knew that twist was coming. Were you watching for that kind of stuff?
Yeah, essentially yes. I knew that there was a twin. I knew that he had a double the entire time, and so there are some subtle hints to it throughout the movie. But because I was aware, like, I guess they're less subtle. Like
right.
the biggest one is the wife saying that on some days he loves her and some days he doesn't. Like she intrinsically feels that way, and you think that's like a weird codependent sort of thing, but it's actually two different people the entire time. So it makes much more sense once you figure it out.
And so this movie is very layered, right? Because you could say, like, so these guys went to one of the most extreme lengths to perform a trick.
Yeah,
right?
all three of them.
Well, so there's three of them.
Well, there's the twins and Hugh Jackman, right?
Right. Sorry.
Lengths.
And then but one of them, the twins, did it in a very like they, cut his twins' fingers off. You know what I mean? And let him sleep with his wife, presumably, or vice versa, and caused literal hell for the relationships that they had, right? And then Hugh Jackman, his whole thing is that he's a great showman, but he's not a great magician,
right?
So he had to cheat to create the same effects.
But he didn't know what the twins were up to, or even if they were
Exactly.
twins. So he was obsessed with like achieving that greatness that they've already portrayed, and he just couldn't understand how. And he sought out his answer, and it ended up being like obviously terrible for him,
right?
In the end.
Yeah. So here's the question: he's alive at the end, right? Hugh Jackson.
Yeah, but he's killed himself, like, or versions of himself, like over and over and over again.
Right, but like even when his like whole thing is burnt down, he's in that water tank, right? They do that like last little pan, and there's like a little bubble of water. You guys know what I'm talking about?
No, I wasn't. I didn't notice that, first of all, but I do believe that he dies at the end of the movie.
I don't
but
think.
Again,
I think that's his last like great trick is that he doesn't die again.
But the whole point is that he doesn't have great tricks, right? The whole point is that he's style over substance.
You're right. Then I don't know who's in the tank. Then you have to go watch that scene again.
Well, it's all the clones.
But there's a literal like bubble of water that comes up. I paused it to see if there was like air.
Maybe that's one of those subtle hints, like where you get to decide for yourself.
Maybe. But like, why pan that way, or like unless it's kind of macabre to be like, oh, there's another dead body. Also, why would he leave the dead body in there? Because that's kind of a dead giveaway of his whole thing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's probably hard to get them out of there. They're heavy.
Probably, yeah. And water.
People are heavy.
Yeah.
Especially when they're wet. Yeah.
Right. Okay, Jeremy. Any other thoughts on you? What else sticks out to you in this movie? I know it's been a while, but what else kind of what cements this to you as being one of? I think that you feel that this is one of Nolan's best movies. So why do you feel like that might be the case compared to something like Inception, what we have on in background, or
Inception is probably my favorite Nolan movie. I don't know. I just like the whole package here. I like the setting. I think his camera work is really good here. Like you said about Christian Bale, I think he's phenomenal in here. Same with Hugh Jackman. Yeah, I don't know. I guess I've already kind of explained why I like it, but yeah, I definitely need to see it again. Have some fresh eyes on it.
Yeah, even Andy Serkis is in this movie, and I
was going to ask if Andy Serkis, because I think I remember him in there with a top hat or something.
Yeah, he's Tesla's like
his assistant,
right hand man.
And they provide some humor, don't they? A little, like kind of.
A little bit. They're kind of just super eccentric weirdos in the middle of the Colorado Rockies. I don't know how much of like Tesla's story is portrayed as real. Obviously, he didn't invent that machine in real life,
as far as you know.
As far as I know. but like there's that moment where like they walk through that field and there's a bunch of light bulbs.
Yeah.
Like, is that real? Like, I don't. You know what I mean?
Why not? Like that could just be wires under the ground, right?
No, I know, but the whole idea was that like he just pulls it out of the ground.
I don't know. Tesla invented a lot of crazy stuff, so.
So, how did you compare this to The Illusionist?
Well, this was much better than The Illusionist. I haven't seen The Illusionist in a long time.
You gotta go watch it right away.
I should. And honestly, again, that movie is not a bad movie. It just
Oh, it is.
compared to Christopher Nolan, what he's doing here, I think it's just not as interesting or as intriguing.
Right.
Like I said, this movie is very layered.
Yeah, this one feels like a million times more grounded than The Illusionist.
Despite the fact that there's a cloning
and it's about magic and whatnot.
right.
But yeah, I believe The Illusionist like relies heavily on like actual magic or like the potential of it or something.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember too much about it, but I just remember it being very cheesy and
that also had a good cast though, if I recall.
Well, it's Ed Norton.
Right.
Don't remember the rest, but yeah,
Jessica Alba, I think.
Jessica Biel, maybe.
Or yeah, Biel.
Yeah.
Either way, I think it's clearly the better movie. I mean, the cat, like I said, we keep raving about the cast, but it's literally so we have Hugh Jackman, Christian Bale, Michael Caine, Rebecca Hall, Scarlett Johansson, a very young Scarlett Johansson, David Bowie, Andy Serkis, and I think that's probably all the names that people will recognize. But that's just it's a lot. That's a lot for one movie, and obviously, like you see a lot of the similarities between what Christian Bale's doing here and what he brought and was bringing to Batman at the same time, to the point where his character's name is Alfred.
Yeah.
in this movie, which I thought was very
that's
funny.
just coincidence.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but like, I just thought that was a kind of a fun little twist. And then I'm just trying to think like what else in this movie. Like, just I think everything works. I think the love stories, like the romances. Did you find the romances didn't work?
Not between Scarlett Johansson and Christian Bale's characters, because there's so much subterfuge and there's so much of
I felt a little forced.
Well, there's so much double, triple agent sort of stuff going on there. Right, she was sent to spy on him and pretend that she's spying on the other guy, and then back and forth. And then she says that she falls in love with him, and she's fallen in love with the twin, obviously.
Right.
But it's just that one was a bit too much for me. But I thought Rebecca Hall was phenomenal as the the wife that's stuck at home while he's off gallivanting and body switching with her.
And then I like how she like slowly starts to just resent him as a person, and him being like the one character, I guess, that they're playing. Like is there a real version of him? Like,
from her, it's the inconsistency that she starts to regret, right. the back and forth, the hot and cold sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she starts off, and I used the term codependent earlier because it really kind of made sense at the time. When she first said the "today you love me" or "today you don't mean it, the other day you did" or whatever. Mm-hmm. She said it as almost a term of endearment, and then towards the end of the movie, that eats away at her,
right? And
it's unsustainable at the end.
Mm-hmm. So the murder trial thing. What did you like that as a framing device? I think that's a really cool mystery to start with, right? And it the way that the movie kind of unravels itself, and you think, well, this Hugh Jackman kind of had a really pretty raw deal that's at the beginning there. He's in love with this assistant. And they're both kind of taking part in what was a kind of like their mentor's kind of magician show, and this, oh my god, that the scene where he reties her knot around her wrists, after she gives the nod, is heartbreaking, right? Because what's going to happen, right? And then it. Like even knowing the outcome and like watching Michael Caine try to break the glass and like all this stuff, it's like really quite tragic. And then you'd say, well, obviously,
give the axe to Hugh Jackman.
yeah, obviously.
Why is Michael Caine the one swinging the axe when you have Hugh Jackman on stage?
That's not what I was thinking.
That's the first thing I thought.
He's got to do something,
right? He's just usually there to be regal. To be fair, he's also lieutenant for like 3 seconds. So you have that moment, right? And it's like, oh, it's so obvious that Christian Bale's character would murder Hugh Jackman after, like, there's this whole like tit for tat thing that's happening, and it's like, the theatrics of the murder in that same water tank is like clearly, it's so obvious at first, right?
Yeah.
That he would have done
It's
it.
poetic, right?
Yeah.
It comes full circle.
And then, and that's what you said, like what I was saying before, like when you find out that, there's a whole body switch or cloning thing happening, it's kind of disappointing, right? Because the murder trial, it was like, okay, well, now he's being condemned for trial for something he didn't commit. And then he still died. Like one of the twins still dies for a murder he didn't commit, right?
Yeah.
So, and framed for that. And so really, I think Hugh Jackman comes off as the villain, obviously, of this
Towards
movie.
the end, yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
He's just this idea of obsession, and it's not so much subtext because it's literal text in the film. Like they say, you are obsessed. You can't handle this obsession anymore. But this exploration of obsession is really interesting. I also really like the idea, and people have brought this up, but this is not my kind of original thinking, but I did like the thinking that if you explore Christopher Nolan's filmography through the prism of him exploring his relationship to filmmaking, I find it really fascinating because this movie specifically is all about the idea of the audience buying in to what the filmmakers are giving them. I thought that's really fascinating. You could probably write a whole film thesis on that.
And I'm sure many have.
Jeremy, any other thoughts or any thoughts on anything I just said?
I think it's just one of his most underrated films, just in terms of when people talk about him. It's not always mentioned. I think recently it's been mentioned more and more, like it's being remembered.
Right. Well, I think a part of that is his kind of turn to this. It really feels like he experimented with the nonlinear storytelling really early on with Memento, then did it again with this movie, and then he kind of went away from it, and then went really hard back into it in
Hard in the
Dunkirk.
Paint.
Sorry?
He went hard in the paint on Dunkirk.
Yeah, right? Interesting basketball reference. I think people look at Dunkirk as less of an achievement. I think they think that choice, this almost obsession of his with this nonlinear storytelling of time, with his obsession with time specifically, as being similar to Hugh Jackman's obsession. I think people have made this connection before, with Hugh Jackman's obsession with the perfect trick, right? He's obsessed with time, and it's eating away at him, and sometimes to the detriment of the actual act or the film that he's making itself. Because Dunkirk, I think, is great, but I don't think that the nonlinear storytelling in that movie makes that movie better.
I don't know. I don't know that it necessarily needs it. I don't know that it impedes it either. I would say in this movie it was a little confusing, but I think that's more just like the costume and makeup stuff. Like the characters literally look the same the entire movie, so when it's jumping back and forth, it almost just feels like another scene. There needs to be more visual cues as to other, and also
this is the same thing in Dunkirk, by the way, where it's like it's not clear. It creates confusion.
Right.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but in Dunkirk, in my recollection at least, it's more clear because you're following one story at a time and then they kind of interconnect, whereas this is jumping back and forth between the two, and so you have already the dynamic where you're not entirely sure who the protagonist is and whose side you're on, because it's all about subterfuge and then tricking each one another. Couple that with the fact that they basically don't age throughout the movie,
right?
And couple all of that with the fact that they're half the time in makeup and in a disguise when they're visiting the other person. It's like, yeah, well, anything could happen then.
Well, they're using I think they use the notebook as his journal.
That I thought was very cool. The two journals, because I think it's incredibly rare, and I can't off the top of my head think of a movie that is done in epistolary style like that. But to have the two characters reading each other's diaries at different points in the movies is a phenomenal storytelling device.
Right.
It's just really hard to translate into film.
Well, yeah. It's very convenient to have. You know what I mean? It's like if everyone has written down their inner thoughts all the time and everyone can read them, it becomes. Yes. It's like the subtext becomes the text.
Yeah, which is why it makes more sense in literature when it's just like you are reading their diary rather than reading or watching somebody read a diary and voiceover.
Yeah. I also really love that Christian Bale, he's a little bit scared of conflict, it seems like, or at least one of the twins is. And like when Hugh Jackman's first wife dies, right? and he just commits to the lie that he doesn't know which knot he tied. He knows.
It's not a lie.
He knows
No, what
what
are you
knot he
talking about?
tied. Yes, he does.
No, that's the whole thing. It's
The way that the movie's presented, like the on screen, you know which knot he's tying. It shows you which knot he's tying. It also shows the wife acknowledge which knot he's tying.
she nods her head, yeah.
Yeah.
And they had talked about tying a new knot previous to that.
Right.
But the character says that he doesn't remember, and then in his diary, when he's being
Right.
honest, it also says he doesn't remember. Mind you, at the end of each diary, they have a twist where they're like, "Oh, I know you're reading me." So I don't know
Right.
if that's a later invention or if they knew the entire time the thing was being written. But
Right. I mean, it's written in code, right? So, but like, I see that more as a coping mechanism. Maybe he blocked it out of his memory. I guess that's possible.
yeah, so then he doesn't know.
But I really get the impression more that he does know, but refuses to admit it. Because by admitting it, it's no longer an accident. You know, he admits his fault in that, and he doesn't feel like he's at fault.
He's certainly a confident enough character, confident in his not tying it and the stagehand stuff, that he wouldn't accept that was his fault.
Right.
And you could make plenty of arguments about that because she went into it willingly and wanted to try that thing too.
Right.
So part of it's her fault. Who knows? I don't really care about that argument. But I do like, at least the way it was presented and the way it was performed, it really did to me seem that he truly forgot.
All right. It came across more like in a courtroom where people say I don't remember something, but it's like very convenient that you don't remember that. You know what I mean? And obviously Hugh Jackman's character feels the same way. It's like, oh, that's very convenient that that's the one thing you don't remember from that evening. You know what I mean?
I just feel like he has no reason to lie about it though. Like I don't
Well,
see his character as somebody who practices dishonesty, as somebody who would do that.
I mean, he's a magician.
No, but you know what I mean. Right? Like, he cares
Right.
about the integrity of the act, and I don't think that he's the type who would have lied about that. I think Hugh Jackman's character is more likely to lie about something of that nature.
I don't know. Jeremy, what do you think? Did she lie? Does he remember? Does he truly not remember what knot he tied?
I can't answer that one because I'd have to watch. Like, I don't have that fresh in my mind, that exact
Right.
scenario playing out.
So you side with me then. Okay, great. Good to know. Good to know. Okay, so let's just read. I want to read Jason Telford's email. I know, Dan, we referenced it earlier. We do solicit thoughts and feedback on the film club selections. So
that's part of what makes it a club.
Right, exactly. So we always appreciate when people send these in. We do. I think it's now out of. It's by accident. It's a happy coincidence that we record these at the end of the month, so you have the full month to send in your thoughts. Because I know Jason had messaged us on Twitter, but you can also do all these, of course, at Tower Babblecast on Twitter. Say, hey, when are you guys recording this? I want to get this in before you guys do. So it's typically the last few days, and this is literally the last possible day.
Towards the end of the month. There is a certain degree of procrastination involved there, and just disorganization.
Daniel, please don't reveal the prestige.
Yeah.
This we can't. How am I supposed to sell the show if they know the tricks that we use? So yeah, let me read this email. So he starts off by saying that he was happy that we picked this film. So again, if there's movies that you guys want that would like us to watch, please make suggestions. We're happy to include those. So he thinks...
I think Tombstone was a suggestion at one point. And there's been a couple others, but that one sticks out in my mind.
Tombstone?
Yeah, it's a Western.
Like an old Western?
Not old. Not too old.
Okay. Who's in it?
Val Kilmer.
Val Kilmer, yeah.
All right, cool. Add it to the list. Or just as you just saying, I think this is the movie that someone said one time, maybe.
Pretty sure that happened.
And he's basically saying the last time you saw it was also in 2006 when it came out. So I think the movie is, and I'm reading as Jason now, I think the movie is pretty underrated just because it wasn't hugely awarded or adored by critics. But I can still remember how thrilled I was as soon as we left the theater. The non-linear timeline really makes this film. It adds so much intrigue to an already interesting premise and flexes possibly Nolan's biggest strength in storytelling. So we disagree a little bit on that. I always appreciate on rewatch the hints put in front the very beginning of what Borden's secret is, such as his wife always being able to tell when he means what he means when he says "I love you," It's a movie you can rewatch over and over and appreciate each time because you notice more of the hints that were hiding in plain sight. And I have to imagine that's the case. And by the way, after watching Tenet, it's like it uses that same kind of I'm not gonna
Just
use,
don't talk.
I'm
about
not gonna
it.
use I'm not gonna use any.
Just
I'm just
don't
saying
talk about it.
it's gonna be a movie.
There's a movie
Try
with hints
not
in it.
No, 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 no.
The movie has hints, guys.
And
Okay, cool.
It's gonna reward rewatch. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Fuck.
I already said that about his movies.
Yeah. That literally is not a spoiler at all. So
It's just you have a tendency
Just
to kind of like
refrain
lean.
from just
Right.
Just don't even say the word.
Tenet. Both Christian Bale and Hugh Jackman were fantastic in the film. It might be my favorite performance from Bale. Michael Caine was very good as well. I also really enjoyed Michael Caine in a much more, I think, human performance than I think you necessarily see from him. It's usually much more guarded, I think. I actually thought one of the best standout performances in the movie was Rebecca Hall. She was so good in limited screen time.
Right.
I think Scarlett Johansson has grown a ton as an actor over the past 14 years. Obviously, her performance last year in Marriage Story and Jojo Rabbit both showed that she's an absolutely amazing actor, but I thought she was overshadowed in this. Also, David Bowie as Tesla and Andy Serkis as his assistant was a fun casting choice. At the time, The Prestige came out in 2006. Nolan had definitely started to make a name for himself with Memento and Batman Begins, but hadn't quite blown up yet as he did after The Dark Knight and Inception. I would have put The Prestige solidly in my top 3 Nolan films after those two. So that guess leads me to question you guys: where does The Prestige fall in your Nolanography? That's I'm coining that term.
I'm very likely going to have to agree with Jason. I think Dark Knight and Inception are up there for sure. They kind of have to be.
Mm-hmm.
They're both phenomenal films. I'm not just putting them there because. And The Prestige is.
It's pretty good.
Memento's good too, though.
I think Memento's too raw of a film to kind of crack the top 3. It's such a brilliant concept, and it's just it's so much more refined.
I'm a big fan of Interstellar. Actually, that would be up there for me.
Interesting.
I'm sorry, that'll bump Prestige down one notch to number 4.
Well, you're sorry, Jeremy. Where does this fall for you?
Probably the same, except for I wasn't a huge fan of Interstellar, so I wouldn't switch that out.
Okay. I think for me,
if you fucking say
I'm not going to say anything about Tenet. I just think it's too.
It's not allowed to be.
It's too close. It's too soon to be in the top 3. But it's not allowed. It's not allowed to be. Okay. I kind of want to put it in my top 3 now, just because you said
shut up about it.
I'm not going to say anything. Just go watch it. You guys will like it. So I'll put it in basic similar. Yeah, it's a pretty good pick. Dunkirk is very good, but I think unless you can see it in theaters, just can't be. It's just not this. You know what I mean?
That's one of those movies where how we always pose for like theater experiences like that. Yeah. That's one that's up there for sure.
I would say I was also a Dark Knight Rises apologist. I don't think it's as bad as other people do.
Oh, no, it's pretty bad.
I
just rewatched it. It's pretty bad. When's last you watched it?
No, I have recently. I think I watch it often. Like I rewatch it fairly often. I like that movie.
I think it has. Me and Jeremy in our solo podcast talked about
third act problems, but
a lot of problems. It's got really cool parts and stuff, but the logic is just
it's
too much to bear. Like
it's a flawed film in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, it's I think by far one of his worst movies. It's like if you put it up there against the rest of the Batman movies, do you think Batman Begins is worse than?
No, of course it's the worst of the Batman movie.
Right.
I'm just saying it's not as bad as it's a lot of people popularly like to shit on that movie, but I think it's a good trilogy overall. And that movie, yes, problems towards the end, but it still has some cool parts.
I guess better than
Jeremy.
Most movies.
The only thing that people reference from that movie is basically just Bane.
Yeah, I mean he's very memorable, very quotable. Right, I mean he's got a lot of great lines. That's for sure.
I mean, yeah, he has a lot of great one-liners. The fight between Batman and Bane when they just cut all the music and it's just intense and visceral. That's an amazing film. I think that movie starts off really great with that scene with the plane. Jesus Christ.
That's really good. Yes.
So Bane's great, very imposing, very able to own. And then this isn't really even a podcast about Dark Knight Rises, but it came up. Like that scene where he puts his hand on, I think, McTaggart's shoulder and says, like, do you feel in charge here?
Right.
Without just implying violence.
Do you feel in charge
Exactly.
here? Right.
Yeah,
But Bane's good, but it's a Batman movie, and Batman doesn't appear for like 30 minutes into the movie.
Whatever. Bane's great. Catwoman's great.
And then he has a whole journey like becoming Batman again after retiring.
It's the third movie, and you have to go through this whole thing. It's like where he's old, but Batman's like, if you follow the logic of those three movies, Batman only operates for like a year total.
Yeah, because
maybe
it's the series is grounded in reality, and that's gonna take its toll on your body.
Right. Maybe a year. It's not. It might be less than that.
I don't know.
Right. Anyways,
back to the Prestige.
Right. So yeah, is there any other thoughts on the Prestige, Jeremy, Dan?
I guess I would just echo what I said earlier. The non-linear storytelling thing didn't always work for me. You get used to it, like you know what to expect, but it's still difficult to be like to understand exactly what point in time you're at because it goes both back and forth.
Mm-hmm.
Like if it were just, skipping over the minutia of their day-to-day between events, that's one thing, but because it jumps forward and goes back and it's all sort of bookended by the trial, it was hard for me to keep track of it. But I can see if you're able to really buy into that, then it probably enhances the movie.
It'd be interesting to watch a linear cut of that movie just to see, but it breaks obviously the framing device of the trial, but maybe you just leave that and then everything else is linear. I don't know. I will say, and like I said before, that like the driving concept of the two people, this rivalry being I think the best part of the movie, and not necessarily the magic. I still really do love their exploration of how like the different magic tricks and how they work, and this idea of like this economy of being able, having these two parts to the tricks, and then if you don't have the prestige element, they're worthless, and
right.
and how where does the prestige come in, and how much of it is showmanship versus the craftsmanship and the engineering of it. I thought that was really interesting. I love the foreshadowing of the catching a bullet trick and how it's used how he loses his fingers because of it.
Right.
I thought that was a masterstroke, because the bullet catch is obviously such a cool concept that we've all seen as like a cheesy thing, but they describe it as something that's being very dangerous, right? And then they use that method that he describes for it being dangerous for the reason that he loses. I think that's just such brilliant filmmaking. And also, obviously, by the way, if that was done out of order, wouldn't have worked, right? That is actually that. You hear them just talk about that first, and then it happens later, and that it's part of how that nonlinear storytelling could sometimes backfire. But in that case, it was fine because it was still linearly in line. But yeah, I thought that was great.
I think and you have to because it's a movie, but there's a lot of movie magic in it as well as the real magic.
Oh no, there's also literal magic again, which I
don't consider that magic, but. It's cloning.
Well, it's not cloning because it's like you can.
It's a mixture of cloning and teleportation.
Yeah, well, because like you can, he's cloning a hat. Like it's like, can you know what I mean, and stuff like.
Yeah, it's 3D printing then. Is that
it's
magic?
Well, no, it's not. It's not 3D printing either. I mean, like it's because it's like teleportation, but then there's also it's like if the teleporter didn't take you with it, it just left you behind, and there's another version of you.
Like if a teleporter sent a fax of something,
right?
And then you still had an original copy,
right? But again, it's happening instantly, right? Just because of some electricity.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
I know what you mean.
It's portrayed as essentially magic.
It's fanciful.
Right.
It's a fantastic element of the movie. It's technology that is indistinguishable from magic.
Right.
At that point.
Anyway, sorry, you were making a point. Go ahead.
Don't remember what it was.
You said there was movie magic in the movie.
Oh yeah, well it's just like a nitpicky little thing, but like there's moments where it's like the joke, the like playful sort of thing that they're doing is that Christian Bale it can do magic at any point, any time, and like it's like a cute thing, but like some of that stuff is physically impossible given the rules in the movie.
Like what?
Like when he walks her to her apartment.
Oh, then he appears in the other.
And
he's Batman. He's Batman.
Unless he knew that would happen and got his twin to go climb into her apartment.
I guess that has to be
what
it is.
You have to assume that's what they did, but that was one of the ones. There was a couple other like really little ones that's like, okay, there's no way to do this, but whatever. It's for the movie and it's fun.
All right, fair enough. I also did like the I guess it's a montage of them going back and forth with the tricks and how he's like improving the transported man, and then the cut to where there's no like padding there, and he breaks his leg. I thought that was pretty cool too. And then explains his limp for the rest of the movie.
Yeah. It's cool that they keep, they have this rivalry and they keep sabotaging one another.
Right.
It's also incredible that they
Insane.
keep getting chosen to be the volunteers at each other's magic shows.
Well, it's very coincidence. That's good. That's a lovely coincidence. But also the movie has to work, so I guess but it is kind of said that they go a lot.
Yeah.
Right.
So, yeah.
So
maybe they just wait till they get lucky one night and get chosen.
I think maybe that's what it is. And they kind of, because they're in the industry, they know this. They know where to sit or something to be in
but also not to
right.
not to be too nitpicky, but they both start off as shills for that other magician, so they are placed in the audience, so they know how to do. I guess they're choosing not to do that themselves.
Well, I think so. One of the things that was again with the catching the bullet trick, when they talk about it, it's like, well, you have to use a plant, and you say, well, you can't keep using a plant over and over again because they'll figure it out, right? So I guess they're saying, well, their version of magic, because there is no plant, is more unique or more true, more authentic. Yeah.
On that note, actually, I did notice the time when the lady hurt her hands with the bird cage, right?
Yeah.
Christian Bale's character was chosen out of the audience, but another an extra gets up in front of him and he kind of pushes in front. So I guess he was in the same vicinity,
right?
And then just made his way onto the stage. The other guy was like, "Oh, okay, I'll just sit down."
Right.
But
I guess so. There's
some tricks of that too. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Okay. Any favorite moment that stood out to anybody in this film?
Oof. I honestly, I don't know if it's just a Lord of the Rings thing. I loved every minute of Andy Serkis on screen.
That's really weird because he's not even that. He's I
thought he was great.
He's fine. He's just a really weird guy. That's his whole thing in this movie. Yeah. There's so many better performances in this movie than
but the other ones, I don't know. I think they all do a great job. We said that at the top.
Right.
I just thought that was one of the ones that's, I guess, a bit more or a bit less expected because he's such a minor character in the grand scheme of the movie.
Yeah, and it's, I guess, when did Lord of the Rings come out? They was been
before that.
Yeah, but when was the last one?
2001, 2002, 2003.
Okay, so it was right off the tail of that.
His favorite years of his life.
He got taken out of high school once to go see that movie.
Yeah, well, Return of the King was premiering that day, so
why didn't you go the night before?
I don't think they did that back then, or I guess
it was midnight. Maybe
it was midnight back then. But my mom took us all out of school to go for the earliest matinee possible.
That was the worst, by the way, when you had to get in line for a movie that came out at actual midnight.
Oof.
Ugh. I'm so glad they stopped doing that. And then you got to, not only did you not have to wait in line anymore, but the movie started at 10 instead of midnight, which was, at the time, really not that big of a deal because we were up late anyway. And I was reading this thing about circadian rhythms and teenagers and stuff. But it's just so much more convenient now. Well, not now, where you're lucky to go to a movie at all. But you know what I mean, for premieres. Okay, well, I think for me, it was the twin reveal. That's my favorite part of this whole movie. And the abracadabra, the way, when he says abracadabra when he gets his neck broken.
You saw that coming.
That's pretty cool. That's a pretty cool moment. Also, when the brief scene where Hugh Jackman shoots other Hugh Jackman is brutal. Brutal.
And such a great performance because he's
no, don't.
He's scared and because they both know what's going on and I don't know. My first thought would be wouldn't it be great to have a conversation with a clone of yourself? But it's dangerous, right?
Right.
I thought the performance in that scene, it's
very short
and it's very short, but they're both just scared and he just does what he has to do, and they both know why it's a certainty, and it's good.
But the thing is, he's so brutal in the sense that he takes away the agency, I guess, of himself every time he does he murders himself, quote unquote.
Well, of his clones, right?
Yeah, but so he goes he drops into the water. He makes the decision to do that every time. But he's also knowing that he'll come back on the other side. But the other version of him doesn't have the choice. It's being taken away from him. He goes into the tank and he might not want to die anymore, but he doesn't get to choose that. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying?
Okay, let's break it down.
So you are about to go through this machine. You get cloned and teleported at the same time, but the original you that made the choice to walk in the machine still alive, but now you're just being dropped into a water to drown. So,
so you're assuming then that he is a copy, a new copy every time?
Yes.
No, because my understanding of it was that I guess that's what happens with the hat, eh?
It's a new copy every time.
He has a line in the movie though, Hugh Jackman's character Angiers.
What did you think was happening?
Where hang on, where he says that he's not sure if he's going to be the one that ends up in the tank or the one that gets transported.
Right.
So like, there's a chance. Like I interpret it as, so he's the showman. He is always the one that gets teleported.
Mm-hmm.
So what's left, the hat that's left over, is the copy.
Right. I guess what he's saying is that no, I don't. I always interpret it the other way around. That the what was transported is clearly the copy because it's being created out of. It's being created out of.
That completely undercuts his message, right? But he's the showman. He needs to be the one that gets on stage at the end.
Right, but he's the one. Because it's still him. It's still him. And he says he doesn't know what it's going to be. But if you're talking to the live one, it's because he's the one that was at the top. He was the one who got transported. He's the clone.
Then that doesn't make sense the way that you explain it, because that's not the original. He's the copy.
It doesn't, but they're because they're the
they
same.
All have the same. They all
it does memories, and it's
no,
that's what's happening.
That breaks it. That completely undercuts the whole purpose of that trick.
I don't like that whole part. I don't
think that's the way to interpret.
I think I just disagree, because why would the thing that doesn't move or change be the clone? That doesn't make any sense, Daniel.
None of it makes sense.
Well, I know, but why would he's like, the hat, nothing happened to the hat. The hat didn't move, nothing happened to the hat. That's clearly the original hat.
The idea is that hat was teleported and a copy of it was left behind.
Why would that be the case? Or why wouldn't just the teleportation create the new copy? Come on, Dan.
What are you talking about?
All right, okay. Jeremy, what do you think is going on? I need you to arbitrate this, please.
I would need another fresh look at it.
Come on, Jeremy. Don't push. Come on, make a decision.
What's interesting to me is that if it's the same person, like, who knows if they've swapped roles? If he's cloned himself and that clone has killed him.
Yeah,
but then continues on with cloning to keep doing the trick.
Yeah,
either way he loses his like sanity and humanity, but it just continues. It just always keeps going.
Also, there's no way if he was the one that's drowning, that clone would knowingly get into the thing, right?
Well, no, he makes the decision knowingly every time that it's going to drown, that I am going to die.
There's a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, well, that he'll either, I guess there's a possibility that if it doesn't work one time, right, he's dead, right? That's the thinking. Because as long as it works, there's a version of him that, as far as he's concerned, is the same version.
Right, and the version of him like preserves all the memories of all the previous versions. Right. So even if he is a copy, he's always going to feel like the original.
Right.
I guess that's one way to look at it. I think again that just kind of like it ruins it to a degree. Like then there is no sacrifice because he always wins.
Well, I mean, kinda. There's
an ethical sacrifice because you're killing a version of yourself, but like he knows that it takes away that uncertainty. He knows that a version of him is always going to win.
Yes, he does know that. That's why there's that's why he frames him for murder. He knows that that he would never do that whole thing, right? You know, he had a backup plan the whole time, knowing that if anyone figured it out, he was always Lord, what's his name, in the background.
Caldwell or something
like that.
Right,
his like alter ego. Right, had that ready to go. So, it's clear that Hugh Jackman's character is very questionable to begin with. But like, I just think that obviously is like the sugar on top, of knowing that kind of additional knowledge. Okay, I think we've litigated this movie to death. If there's anything we didn't cover, please let us know. Please, I really want to know is what you guys think of those two questions that we asked before. So the first one being, is which version of Hugh Jackman is the quote-unquote copy? And what was the other one we had the debate on that Jeremy also didn't help answer?
I don't remember. Hang on. I'll think of it. Keep talking.
Anyway, that other question that you listened to, please, I want to know what you think happened.
Oh, the knot. Did he knowingly tie the knot? Or did he remember or not remember the knot?
Right. Which is, I guess it's up to your interpretation, but both of them are.
all of his
Right.
Nolan's movies are ultimately leaving a lot to the audience.
Right.
Right.
So would love to get your take on that. Nolan always has quote unquote an answer, but he will never tell anybody. So it's the same thing with the top in Inception. He has an answer, like for him, right? Does the top fall? He knows.
Definitely does.
But he says
You think it definitely does, Jim?
No,
I don't
it
think
definitely doesn't.
It definitely doesn't.
Okay.
Yeah. He's never said that. There's a lot of speculation that if you watch,
You know,
Inception, if
you
watch
want it.
Inception-
The goal is you want it to. You want him to
Yeah.
find the
Right.
happy place and all that stuff.
Right.
But at the end of the day, everything they went through and where they are now, like it's just too blurry. There's just no way.
Yeah, there's too many conveniences
Yeah.
and like coincidences, and in that movie, there's a lot of hints that it's all a dream. Again,
And
it's up to
dreams are
interpretation.
just so complicated too. So it lends to that. Like what could change towards the end as well.
By the way, don't mean to spoil Inception of that movie that came out in what 2000.
Well, they don't know what that means.
Right.
I would assume most people
if you haven't seen
have watched Inception.
Right. Yeah. So our bad if we spoiled that for you. It's not really a spoiler, but yeah. Okay. Anyway, we need to pick a movie for next month.
Oh, fuck,
so Dan, do you have a movie in mind? Jeremy, do you have a movie in mind? I need like a second to think about this. I'm going to quickly reference my list of movies. Dan, what do you got?
Yeah, I'm going to just throw coherence back on the list.
Grab a pen. Grab a pen over there. Jeremy, do you have anything top of mind?
I don't.
Yeah, throw on. I don't know.
Throw on.
You definitely should have done this off.
Well,
air.
so here's what I'm thinking. I got.
Just
help
say
me.
it.
Help me.
Don't-
No,
no,
here.
just
Help me.
pick
Help me.
one.
Help me. Help me. Help
just
me. Help me
gotta
out.
pick
Help me
one.
out.
Help me help you.
Yeah. So I got Black Swan and Chinatown. These are both. Black Swan's a much more modern movie. Chinatown's a little bit more classic.
Putting Black Swan on the list.
Okay. All right. Black Swan it is.
Jeremy.
That's probably another movie that's probably left a lot to interpretation. I've never seen Black Swan, but I imagine
Never
there's
seen
a
Black
lot
Swan.
of like psychological stuff going on in there that I
Man,
don't
Jeremy actually, here's a story. While you think of a movie, Jeremy, Jeremy made me watch Black Swan a long time ago. I think this is before the podcast, and like he convinced me to it. And the way that he convinced me was he was like, "You got to watch it. It makes ballet seem like the most badass sport in the world." Like the most,
but does it?
It does the most intense and visceral and demanding.
That's pretty cool. All right, so I'm excited. I hope that one gets
It's an insane movie, but there's much more to it than that. It's not just about the ballet, but
right.
That's what convinced me.
Also, why did you give yourself 3 and 4?
I wanted 3 and 4 because I feel like I didn't win last time when I had 1 and 2.
This is bullshit. You don't get to just sign the numbers.
I'm putting my thumb on the scale a little bit because I know I'm going to roll a 3 or 4.
Right. Okay. Jeremy, what do you got?
We have the die up here.
Yeah.
I don't have anything yet.
It's around here somewhere. I know.
I saw it the other day.
Yeah, it's I think on over there. Check over there. Okay. Well, Jeremy, let's pick a theme here. We went with Prestige because of Tenet. So New Mutants are out right now. Maybe we go with X2.
We have yet to do a superhero movie on this.
Right.
That was like
X-Men, the original X-Men. Speaking of Huge X-Man, huge X-Man. Help us out, Jeremy. Pick him. Literally pick anything. It could be the Rocketeer again.
Can't be the Rocketeer. It's been on the list too many times.
Yeah, but it hasn't been picked yet.
It keeps not getting picked.
Yeah, let's put it on there. Why
The
not?
Rocketeer it is.
Dan Dinosaur. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, we have this little notebook that we reference every once in a while for like old bets. Some of them have yet to be decided. I think I won most of the bets, didn't I? I don't know.
That doesn't sound
I have
right.
to check.
Ready? I'm gonna roll it.
Okay,
Ready?
here we go.
God
One. It's a
damn
one.
it.
You had the chance to. You had 1 and 2. You could have been 1 and 2.
Yeah. See, that's what you get for trying to trick people.
So, Black Swan.
One is Black Swan.
Black Swan is the next movie on the film club. When did Black Swan come out? Does anyone remember? This must have been high school. No. Well,
No, it was outside of high school. It was in university for sure.
Okay.
I want to say like 2010, 11,
Okay, I'm looking this up as we speak.
something like that. Maybe later than that, actually.
2010.
2010.
Yeah. Interesting. Natalie Portman's kind of like her probably most prestigious role, maybe? I don't know. If I can use prestige in the
It's certainly one of her best performances.
Okay.
She's amazing in this movie.
Directed by Darren Aronofsky. Music by Clint Mansell. Awarded Academy Award for Best Actress in a Leading Role.
Oh, there you go.
So there you go. There you go. And it was apparently nominated for a lot of stuff. So that's our movie for next month. If you have any thoughts on Black Swan, please send them in. If you think her role as Padme was better, please let us know. Happy to litigate that argument. And yeah, follow us on Twitter at TowerBabblecast, Facebook.com/TowerBabblecast. You know this already, but in case you hadn't done that already. Anyway, we'll be back then next month with another film club. We'll see you then.
See you.
There you go. Eh?
Recording over it?
You keep using the word litigator. Why do you keep using, like, what does that even mean?
I don't know. I got it stuck in my head. Litigate. It's like,
isn't that like a
side? Yeah.
Yeah, it's like to argue, sort of,
yeah.
or to like debate, discuss, get to the bottom of something.
Thank you, Dan, for defining that. I heard it recently. I knew that obviously the word from before, but I for some reason
it's a lawyer. There's a lawyer or attorney.
Yeah.
They do those things. A lawyer litigates.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They can be called attorneys or litigators or solicitors or
right. But you can. It's also a verb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. It keeps just saying legal proceeding shit if I Google it.
To litigate. No, that's mitigate. Also, I don't think I spelled it right. Mitigate. Right. Go to law. Be party of a lawsuit.
So it's being to take to
claim or dispute to a court of law.
Yeah. So obviously using it colloquially, it's not to a court of law, but it's bringing it to here to us to debate, I guess.
It took a very steep increase in usage in the turn of the most recent century.
That's 1950.
Right. So like after somewhere
the turn
between,
of the most recent half century.
Well, no, from anywhere after like 1960 to
the century turns when the zero. Like when it goes from 99 to 0
to 2000.
So 1960 is in the middle.
So but like you got like this big spike here,
so,
right at like 2000.
I see what you're trying to say.
Right,
it spikes towards
right at the
year. That's
turn of the century.
An uptrend well before the turn of the century. It actually turns after the turn of the century down if you go by the graph. So,
but I mean, we can actually get very more specific. It takes a big spike in 1970.
Yeah, right around the turn of the 1970s.
Yeah, and then right around it starts to fall again at 2000.
The actual turn of the century.
Damn it. Well, it wasn't that easy to tell on that one. I do like these graphs though on Google. You can get to like really get down into the nitty-gritty stats of words. Have you ever seen this before?
The analytics.
I don't know. Jamie, you excited for Black Swan?
No.
Why not?
I watched it like 3 times in a row when I first saw it. Like,
really?
You really liked it.
Oh man, why wouldn't you be excited for that?
You're not gonna be excited for it. You're gonna barely get through it, probably.
Why? Is it really intense?
It's very intense. Like it's scary. You'll be scared.
Daniel, it's a movie about ballet. All right.
Yeah. Hey man. It's a like vicious movie.
Okay. But it's psychological horror, right? Would we consider a horror film?
There's a lot of physical horror in it too. It would be considered a thriller for sure.
Okay, but not a horror film.
I mean, thriller would be a subgenre of horror. It's horrific in some ways, but it's not like a tradition, like a horror movie in the sense that like there's like a monster coming to get you,
right,
in the dark or whatever. I don't know. It's a thriller though. It's a scary movie.
You will feel very uncomfortable.
Yeah, that's a better way to put it, Jeremy. It's uncomfortable. Like you feel like you're uneasy. You're anxious.
I don't like that. I'm not gonna like that. So don't watch it high. Is what you're saying?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't recommend. Actually, I would recommend.
Definitely
I
watch
think
that.
that's the way to
What
get
are
the
you
most out of the
talking
experience.
about?
After a
Last time I
huge-
watched an anxious movie high, I had to get out of the chair and walk
Well,
around.
that's you, man. You gotta ride it out. You gotta just
no, it was
lean
too
into
much.
it.
It was too anxious.
There's no such
I was
thing as
watched.
too much.
You didn't watch. You haven't seen Uncut Gems, but that movie. I think Jeremy
Oh.
understands because he's seen
Jeremy
it.
loves that movie too.
But like, as it like, that movie like designed in a lab to make me anxious. Like I swear to God,
Yeah.
they were like, this movie specifically for Julian will be very hard to watch, and it was even harder when I was high. It was very hard. So I think I'll do myself a favor in this one and watch it sober.
well, if you're scared, you're scared. That's fine.
Scared actually.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Should probably go to church.
You should probably. That's dumb. That may be one of the dumber
Been
things you
making that
said.
same damn joke since high school.
Well,
I just realized this.
That's Ti,
No, it's Ice Cube.
Ice Cube, but it's in a Ti song though, right?
No, it's in an Ice Cube song.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, all right. I'm thinking of Rubber Band Man, maybe.
That's T.
Did a Dune trailer play?
No, in fact, I didn't get the sneak peek at Dune. It's bullshit now that I think about it. The movie started 10 minutes late. There was literally nothing on screen. Like there wasn't, those trivia things weren't playing. It was just a blank silver screen, and it was like 10:30 came, then 10:40 came, and I was like, okay, this is bullshit.
Yeah,
and
So
then,
late.
well, you got out at 1 o'clock.
That's
ish,
brutal.
and that's not that bad. Like if you
That's
think
pretty
about it, that's not that bad.
Well, it
It's not
depends
that
on what
bad.
time
Pretty
you wake
bad.
up. Well, you have to wake up for work. It's pretty bad.
Right? I guess so. I don't know. It was
You didn't
anyway.
feel tired at all.
No, I was fine. I also had today off.
Oh, okay.
You also slept
I
till
don't
11,
like-
so
Slept until 2.
It was closer to 11. I was in bed till.
But you're like, oh, I should probably get up.
I had that exact. How do you always know? How do you always know?
I guess
My inner
I should
monologue.
get around to getting up.
Yeah, one time he said he watched a movie. What? Yeah, it was some random movie, and I was like, in the moment, did you say, you know what? Fuck, I'm gonna watch that right now? And you like, yeah, I did.
I literally said, "Yeah, fuck it, I'm gonna watch this."
You know what, Julian? Yeah, I'm gonna watch this now.
It was pretty. Yeah, I watched Superman Man of Tomorrow.
Oh yeah, that was the point I was making. Yeah, that's the
Oh.
movie you decided to watch. That
yeah, right. Superman Man. You know what? Fuck it. And guys, you know what? It's pretty fucking good. It's
the first 45 minutes is good.
yeah. The last.
These
You seen it
movies,
now?
yeah, they just lose me after an hour and 10.
I thought this. You're right. The first. I
It was
thought the
incredible.
first two acts were like unbelievably good, and I love the art style. I
Yeah.
love it. I think it's
I saw
so stylistic.
The IGN review, they nailed it. They said it looks bad in still images, but when it's moving, it's unlike anything else we've seen before because it's so
But-
clear.
It's
And,
a lot like
it's
Archer, but less stylized, but less realistic. I would say, like at that really thick line.
Yeah, but when it animates, it just looks so flawless, and like
Right.
you can capture all the action properly. It's not choppy or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
still images of it, it looks very ugly. Like I wouldn't.
It's less detailed, I guess.
yeah. It just looks very ugly, but
Mm-hmm.
the way they capture all the movements is just insane to me.
I thought the action was super good.
Yeah, the first
um,
Lobo fight scene is incredible. I thought.
Yep. And then that whole parasite thing just gets real boring.
Yeah. They always
Uh,
introduce something new that I always just tune out at that point.
Is Parasite not like I feel like there must be a Parasite villain, quote unquote, in a Superman mythos somewhere.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Parasite.
It's called
Yeah,
Parasite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I didn't know if they invented that character whole cloth or was new for this.
No, he's Parasite was in the animated series.
Oh really? Okay.
He's one of
I
like
never really watched Batman the animated series though,
Parasite. No, I mean
or
Justice,
Superman.
Justice League.
Superman the
Justice
animated
League is what I was
series.
talking about.
I think it's coming out on Blu-ray soon.
Parasite, Brainiac, Luthor are like the big ones for
Really?
Superman.
Parasite. Why
And
have I never
obviously
heard? Why
Darkseid.
have I never heard of Parasite before? That's weird. Are you thinking of Starro?
No,
Okay.
you know Parasite.
Starro might be in the Suicide Squad movie, is the rumor.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh.
That's insane.
Then some rumors were saying that it might be Taika playing him, but then there's a new rumor
Taika playing Starro?
But then there's a new room. Well,
only talk.
mind control.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a new rumor. There's another different rumor.
That he's
Didn't
like-
they reveal the whole
It's
cast?
like some sort of the weasel character or some shit like that, or like a secondary weasel character. I don't know.
The Weasel's wife.
The stoat.
The what?
The stoat. It's like a weasel. It's another little rodent.
I've never heard of it. A stout?
A stoat.
A stoat.
You for sure have heard. You read
Never.
Redwall.
I've never heard of a stoat. A stoat was never.
Jesus
Stoats were
Christ,
never in
they're-
Redwall.
Go get any Redwall
No,
book right
no.
now. I bet you
I've
we can
never
flip
heard of
to
it.
a random
I
page.
guarantee there's no stoats in
A
Redwall.
random page.
There's like a 60% chance they're talking about a stoat.
There's no stoats in
There's
Redwall,
for
dude.
sure
No, there is
stoats.
not.
There's no ermines in Redwall, but an ermine is like a stoat or a weasel.
They use weasel. They just use the term weasel in that book.
They use stoat as well.
No, they do not. And maybe they did. I don't recall that. I don't. But
Yeah, they're overrated now.
Of course they
We're 30 years old now, so Redwall.
It was a cool sci-fi concept for a kid in
Fantasy
grade
concept.
6.
There's cooler ones now.
Right, sorry, fantasy. Yeah. See, it could be sci-fi. Maybe that's happening on a different planet.
Sure. Yeah.
The
Just
Redwall
play,
world is.
just play Star Fox or something.
Are you kidding? Redwall is way cooler than Star Fox.
Debatable.
Absolutely.
No.
It's not even close. Star Fox. You could argue that there's maybe only ever been
I mean,
one
Star
good
Fox
Star
is like
Fox
Star
game.
Wars.
No, it's not. No,
Yeah,
it's
it
not.
is. The space
Because they use
like
the
Star Wars.
R-wing and it's like designed after an X-wing. Like
There's
Yeah.
that sweet Star Fox game where you get to like fight dinosaurs. That was my favorite one.
Right.
that wasn't even supposed to be a Star Fox game.
I
They just
know, I
put
loved
Star
it.
Fox
I
in
know,
it.
I loved it.
So
You-
With
Resident
your little
Evil-
wand.
You
Resident-
couldn't jump in that game.
Resident Evil 4 was supposed to be Devil May Cry.
And now look at us.
Now look at me.
But like, sure, but that one, I guess, do people consider that Star Fox game to be good? I don't think so. I don't consider it to be good.
Star-
Did
Star
you ever
Fox?
play it?
Yeah, I did.
You
Of course,
never
I owned
played
it.
You're not a Star
I-
Fox guy. It's fine.
He's not a dinosaur guy either, so that maybe that's
Who-
why.
everyone's a dinosaur guy. Everyone likes dinosaurs. Everyone likes Jurassic Park. Daniel, come on. No one's. Maybe I'm not as a dinosaur guy as you, right?
Obviously not.
Obviously not. I wouldn't want to be.
You couldn't. If
It's
you
an obsession.
Well, you wouldn't be you then.
But if I were you, then you'd be me, and you can't stop me no matter who you are.
That was the other thing that Prestige made me think about.
What, Ace Ventura?
No, not that. There's the Tesla and Edison thing, and then there's these two paleontologists, Cope and Marsh, that had the same thing at around the same time, where
Really?
they were rivals.
That was
and
like, it was just very fashionable at the time.
they took out ads in the newspaper, like talking shit about the other guy. This is real history.
That's
It's
pretty
insane.
funny.
That's why anytime somebody says a brontosaurus, I get like irate, because what happened was the one guy, I can't remember which one, he discovered the apatosaurus first, and then the other guy, because they were competing, discovered the same dinosaur but called it a different name later and stole it. And because he put a different head, he put a hadrosaur head on the apatosaur body, and so they thought it was a different species. And then later on, that was proven to be false, and he was obviously, he was in the
Ridiculed.
wrong.
Mhm.
But they both
Mhm.
ended up ruining their entire lives. The worst part is that they actually destroyed fossils because they were competing with one another. They would go to each other's dig sites and destroy their finds.
Oh, that's
This
pretty
is
fucked up.
tragic. It's
Mm.
ridiculous.
That's cool.
But it's the same story. It's a story of obsession
Right.
and that
Yeah, I'm telling you,
rivalry
rivalries were
turning
just
wrong.
they were all the rage back then.
and Jesus, I wish we were recording this within the Prestige episode. But like, you think about how the Prestige and Illusionist came out in the same year, and they're doing the same thing. They're competing with one another for the
Right.
same prize.
Oh wow, yeah, you're right.
Fuck! I wish I had thought of that earlier.
Which everyone knows is the Deep Impact Armageddon
Same
phenomena.
thing. Same thing.
I don't know what
There's
Right.
one other for sure. At least one other.
we can never
example.
remember, but that one is for sure. Wasn't there Mummy movies like at the same time that came out, or like,
You can say it about superhero movies because like it's a DC Marvel, but that's always been a thing, right?
Mm.
It's not quite the same.
well, because they've literally been copying each
Yeah.
other since
Yeah.
the 50s.
I feel like it's happened with kids movies a couple times maybe. Like there's like like Finding Nemo came out around the same time that Shark Tale came out, something like that.
I don't even know if that's true. Actually,
It sounds true when I say it.
Just made it true.
Like I think Shark
I'm
Tale is
not
like
sure.
just like a direct like opportunity by DreamWorks to capitalize on
could,
the
but, like,
Pixar's fame.
but they were close enough to the same time. I don't know. It supports my point if they are. So
I'm sure you could just Google a list of those. Sherlock Holmes wasn't there? Oh, Jungle Book. There was
the two
the
Jungle,
Jungle
Books.
Books. Although no one really talks about that weird one on Netflix that no one's ever seen.
I haven't seen either of them.
What's it called? It's called
The Jungle Book.
No,
One's
one-
called Jungle Book. The other's called The Jungle Book, right?
I don't think so. I think the other one's what's the name of the main character?
Mowgli.
I think it might be just called
Oh
Mowgli.
yeah, you're right. Yeah. Mowgli. We used to call Alana Mowgli because she looked like a little Indian kid.
She literally was a little Indian kid.
Yeah, and she's the darkest of us. We used to call her Mowgli or Slumdog.
So you guys just use racism in your own family household?
Yeah.
All right, interesting choice. What else did I actually watched a bunch of stuff recently. What else did I watch? I keep a list because I can never remember. This list this year has been super long. I watched Tenet, Superman, Prestige, Altered Carbon re-sleeved. Altered Carbon got canceled.
Yeah.
That was a pretty.
That's the anime that you watched?
It actually wasn't too bad. I like the music and the action's really cool.
I haven't seen it.
But I also watched Sicario, the sequel to Sicario. It's not very good. It's almost as if without that amazing director and amazing cinematographer, that the movie's not as exciting, even though it has mostly the same characters in it.
Same cast for the most part, yeah.
Coco. Did I tell you watch Coco?
Yeah, you did.
And Fury. I finally watched Fury. I don't think I told Jeremy that. I finally watched Fury. Jeremy.
Nice. David Ayer.
Yeah. Release the air cut.
The air cut.
Yeah. Oh, I also watched Dolomite Is My Name, and that movie fucks. It is so good.
You've already seen that movie.
That's what I said. I'm going back through my list of things.
What? You watched it again?
No, Dolomite Is My Name. I watched
he's
recently.
letting us know what movies he's watched
I
recently.
don't want to hear about that movie again.
Why?
Stupid title.
Well, I mean, it's someone's name.
Yeah, no, they say that in the title.
That it's a dumb name.
No, that it's someone's name.
Yeah.
He's absolutely right. I bought my dad a flight simulator as an early birthday present today.
So you bought him Game Pass?
No, I'm not. I didn't buy a subscription to Game Pass for him so he could play one video game.
He's not going to play it nonstop. He's going to play it a week, maybe for a week, and then be done with it. Maybe come back.
No, I paid the $80 on Steam so he could download.
His dad's always been into those simulators.
He had a Steam account already because he wanted to play Flight Simulator X, which came out in 2000. I went on there to buy it when they went out today, and I went in there, and it's fortunate my dad has the same password for basically everything. So
what is it?
I'm not saying.
You almost said it. I saw you.
I'm not saying. So
bank accounts.
Anyway,
there's so many millions of dollars in there.
They're not millionaires. So I went in there, and it's 150 gigabytes to install.
Yeah.
150 gigabytes.
It's enormous.
That's bigger than the
globe. You can go visit your house.
You can't go in. You can't visit your house. Although I did see a review. When I was reading,
you can crash into your house.
I saw. Yes, that's right. I saw a Steam review. It was a 5 out of 5. It said, I crashed a 747 into my ex-girlfriend's house. 5 out of 5.
Yeah, but it doesn't like show explosions. It just like literally just cuts to black and like restart.
I don't know how it works, but I just think that's funny.
That's
well, I've seen
opportunity on their end.
Someone at IGN was streaming it, and they're like trying to fly into the Golden Gate Bridge. She's like, here it comes. Like you can see it slowly approaching it. Like super excited that he's gonna go underneath of it, but then as soon as he gets to it, the game just like
Oh, he said
he crashed. Yeah, and then it just didn't show anything.
Oh, it's certainly a good-looking game. It's very pretty. I think.
Well, it just uses like photos, doesn't it?
Well, kind of. I mean, it uses photos as like a reference to like render 3D architecture. So like you can, and top it. It's basically a live recreation of the world,
Norm
including weather.
Norm Spencer has passed away.
Who?
Norm Spencer,
Who's that?
the voice of Cyclops from the animated series.
Oh,
Darn.
didn't know that.
Chadwick Boseman died, and that's, I would argue, well, it's weird to say that.
Yeah, it's not a competition.
Yeah.
But that one, I felt like that one was particularly tragic. I felt I don't normally get broken up about celebrity deaths, but that one felt, because I guess it was shocking, maybe more shocking than.
Well, I wasn't aware that he was battling colon cancer. I had
no one
idea.
did. That's the whole.
Yeah.
Literally nobody did.
Well.
That's the craziest part. What do you think Marvel's gonna do? Do you think you kill? I think the right thing to do is kill off the character.
It's hard to say. I don't know.
I don't. It's like you can. Anyone can be the Black Panther, right?
I don't know.
I don't know. It's too soon to say, obviously, but I think they likely had plans for more Chadwick.
Yeah.
In the MCU.
It sucks.
No.
But it is what it is. Like,
Get tested
for colon
for
cancer.
colon cancer.
No,
Yeah.
you
Get tested. Jeremy, get tested. Jeremy, get tested.
He just wants us to. He wants people to put fingers up. Their
No,
butts.
it's important to get tested, especially at our age. You got to start checking
No,
for colon cancer.
do
Yeah,
not.
absolutely. It's the number one cancer killer
I would
in men.
know if there was something wrong with my colon.
I don't think
I
you
would
would.
know.
I honestly don't think
I'm,
you would.
I'm like very in tune with my body, you know. So
Right.
I would just know if something was off with my colon.
That's an interesting tact. You also don't go to the doctor though, right? Isn't that
yeah,
the
because
case?
I feel like there's nothing wrong with my colon. I don't need a doctor.
Wait, that's the only time you'd ever go to the doctors. You felt like something was wrong with
Yeah,
your
like,
colon
doctor,
specifically.
just take a look under the hood over there.
What about testicular cancer?
They're fine.
They're fine as well.
They feel normal.
Mine don't. Just kidding. They feel fine. In case anyone's concerned.
They feel 90% fine.
Biggest piece of dog shit, and I've got to say it.
Excuse you?
What?
I heard something about dog shit.
Oh, someone talking about New Mutants.
Oh, they call it the biggest piece of dog shit.
It's a
Yeah.
It's a very
strong take.
yeah, descriptive. I've heard it's bad. I heard some pretty crazy shit about some decisions that they were like banning about early on. Like they wanted to make Storm like an evil jailer, essentially. Which I think is it just doesn't. It's like a bad. It's not a good look, I don't think, for that character specifically. They didn't go that way apparently, but
Yeah.
I'm kind of intrigued about the movie only because it's been like done for like 5 years and ready to go, but just never.
I liked the concept. I mean, I'd still like to go see it eventually.
Arya's in it. Jamie's
Oh,
gonna
yeah.
say that the only reason she's in that movie is because she was from Game of Thrones.
It's true. That's people.
Do any of those actors now get to have like how long do they have to wait till they escape the
till they-
gravitational pull of,
They
of Game
don't,
of Thrones?
man.
Till they do something good.
I don't think he ever escaped. I mean, Joseph Gordon-Levitt is only where he is now because of Third Rock from the Sun.
Nobody thinks of that though when you see it.
Yeah, because he's done a lot of better things.
Sure, but like Mark Hamill, for instance, he could never. It was really hard for him to escape Star Wars. I mean, it took an animated role, where he literally wasn't on screen to kind of like to find his next big success. But even then, he never really, took off from there. Harrison Ford obviously never had a
Mark Wahlberg, Will Smith came from
Yeah.
music. You don't even think about that when you
Yeah,
see
it's
them
true.
act.
Dwayne The Rock Johnson
Yeah,
was a
wrestler.
professional wrestler,
Yeah, but everyone liked The Rock.
and they still call him The Rock. So
Right. In fact, he calls himself The Rock. He said, "Talk to himself."
He is The
I know
Rock?
I know what you're thinking, Rock.
it'd be crazier if he called himself The Rock all the time. Like, I know what you're thinking, The Rock.
I thought that was honestly amazing when he said that in that little
Yeah.
Black Adam thing. Oh, you just want to hang out with Gal Gadot. But what's her name who plays Rey?
Daisy Ridley.
Daisy Ridley. Apparently, it was this in a story recently. She said that she auditioned for tons of roles since episode 9, hasn't got any of them, and she feels like maybe Star Wars is hanging over her a little bit.
Yeah, maybe.
Which isn't really fair because I don't think her performance has ever been in question in those movies. You know what I mean?
But maybe it's in question during these auditions. I don't know. I don't think that I think she is talented enough that she doesn't need to be typecast. But
right. What about
So
Hayden
that-
Christensen? He never. Ugh.
what are you talking about? He
Looper,
was in that
Jumper,
movie?
Jumper.
Yeah,
Jumper.
which I feel like came out around the same time as Looper.
No, it didn't. But just because they're similar names doesn't mean.
But what are you talking about? He was in that movie about waking up while you're in surgery. What was it called? Awake or something like that?
So
Wake?
okay, but you know what I mean, right? Like there's
Yeah.
these their
Yeah, no,
biggest
that's
role
a bad
was
movie. That was the point.
okay. Like if Sophie Turner's biggest role after Game of Thrones is ever just her not great version of
Jean Grey.
Jean Grey, like that's probably not great, right? You hope for more from
They'll
them.
all do other stuff. That's the thing that with the Game of Thrones cast, like most of them, not all of them, but most of them were also great actors. So yes, they got a lot of these roles because they had exposure, but they've also,
Right.
I would argue, earned it through their performances.
Have you
of
seen
them.
Ramsey in Inhumans?
No,
He's not very good in that.
but that is not his.
But also the
fault.
whole movie. Well, I'd argue he's not doing his best work in that either. But that show is also, they don't talk about it anymore. It's basically been flushed down the toilet. No one discusses that. There's a whole Inhumans movie coming now. They don't have to.
Yep.
Is that still happening? No, Eternals.
Eternals is
Because they're
definitely happening.
ignoring Inhumans. They did that.
It's not called
And
the
they-
Eternals anymore.
It's just called Eternals now.
Yeah.
They dropped the. It's cooler. Right? That's the line from The Social Network. Drop the.
From the Facebook to Facebook.
You ever seen that movie?
No, I haven't.
It's Justin Timberlake who gives that. Who gives that
You haven't
line.
seen The Social Network?
It's super good, Dan. You got to watch it.
I know.
I'll
It's
put
one of those
down,
movies
I'll put
you guys
down the
should do this
list
with.
next time.
You guys always
Put that on
rave
my
about
list.
these
next
movies, and that makes me want to watch it less for some reason.
Yeah, you never seen Looper? What's that? Oh, we finally got him to
Yeah, well,
watch
this
it.
is
He
the
didn't
thing.
even
This
like
is
it.
the way you guys have figured it out. You made me watch Looper because I'm beholden to this system that we created.
But okay, but that movie wasn't that bad, right? Like it was
Yeah,
pretty
okay.
good.
It was okay, yeah.
You know, it's like you. The thing is, you also dug yourself a deeper hole because you also said you've seen every single sci-fi movie.
Yeah.
Is
And zombie movie.
that? I think it's easier to see every zombie movie. There's not as many.
There's a ton of them,
If there-
and I
there's-
have not
there's
seen them all.
more sci-fi movies.
Well, sci-fi's a larger umbrella.
With does zombie fall under sci-fi?
It sure does.
I haven't barely seen any zombie movies. I just don't find it that. It
Have
doesn't-
you seen Dawn of the Dead?
No.
Gotta watch it.
Like the Snyder one you're talking about?
Yeah.
Oh, I knew you were gonna say. Everyone says that's bad.
No, it's a
They
good
don't.
movie.
Yeah, people say that one's bad.
That's easily the best zombie movie still to date for me.
Night of the Living Dead's pretty cool. Like the older ones are good. There's Night Eats the World is a more recent one that's pretty good. But yeah, I really like that movie.
Huh.
Like I really like it.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'd obviously like I'm not an aficionado of the zombie movie genre, but when I hear people talk about zombie movies and people bring up the Snyder version of that movie, they say that it's like the lesser version.
Well, that's a lot of people like they will revert to the original stuff, which is still good. I think Snyder's version is the modernization of that stuff, and to a degree, it kind of feels like it is responsible for some of the resurgence of the zombie culture.
100%. Yeah.
All right. I'm probably never gonna watch that movie.
It's going on the list. That's what we're gonna do next time. We're
Yeah,
gonna have all
yeah,
horror themed.
Yeah. You do. We'll
I
do.
guess Halloween's coming up.
Yeah.
That's the next month.
Just watch Halloween. There's two versions. There's both Halloween and Halloween,
Well,
and
there's
you
like
could, no, but there's
17
literally two
Halloween.
that are just called Halloween.
Yeah.
Because there's the new one.
You could do that with Friday the 13th as well.
Right? Is there there's a two Friday the 13th?
I think so. Yeah.
Like just the same. Like that's the title.
Yeah.
Hmm.
They're
Yeah, that
all
makes
called
sense.
Friday the 13th, and then like
Something.
Jason goes to camp or Jason goes to space or something.
Jason X is the one where he goes to space, and I have seen that one, and it's very funny.
Ridiculous.
Yeah, but he has a metal mask. It's really cool.
Yeah. Freddy versus Jason is ridiculous as well.
I think I've also seen those, but I think that's kind of more of a novelty. Like you kind of It's the Alien versus Predator of it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which also I think is fun. Put AVP on the list. Actually, don't. I don't want to watch AVP.
Hell no.
I don't want to do that. Why? Don't let's just put a rule: no bad movies on the list.
Okay, eagle versus shark.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
I knew you were gonna bring
own
that up.
one.
I knew you're
Well, I
gonna.
just brought it up because someone just tweeted that they're doing like their own movie club, but it's like just Taika Waititi movies.
You're like, okay, good luck
That's
with
the
Eagle
first,
versus
that's
Shark.
the first one that they're doing. I sent you the tweet.
Oh, really?
It's that Hector guy.
Oh, okay.
See, like some of these bets though, like there's nobody betting against you, Julian. It's just you saying like Batman is going to appear in Joker. That's your bet.
He doesn't.
Jon Favreau will not get the director nom for Lion King.
Well, it's not a bet, right? I mean, it's more like just
But, like,
predictions. There's a prediction.
Yeah, I know, but
And also, I was right about that.
yeah, but I don't think anybody disagreed. is
Yeah.
what I'm
Well,
saying.
the reason that was on there is because Jeremy thought he would.
Disney teases X-Men and Fantastic Four at D23.
That was from 2019. Did that D23 come this year? Did that ever happen?
I don't know.
That D23? I don't even know. But they haven't teased any X-Men or Fantastic
This
Four.
just says puppet show with an exclamation mark.
Yeah, you're gonna do a puppet show. Remember?
I'm not gonna do a puppet
Yeah,
show.
you're gonna do a puppet show where you describe to us the lore of Lord of the Rings in exquisite detail. I think that's a very funny concept. We'll help you do it, Dan. We'll help make the puppets.
Bet there will be at least one person dressed as Strevler for Halloween in 2020. This one is coming up right away.
Yeah.
We're gonna be able to
Well,
cross
it's,
this
tough, well,
off.
it's tough because there's not
Nope,
gonna
that's
be any
not an excuse.
Halloween parties.
Dale doesn't even know who Strevler is, man.
This bet mentions nothing about COVID. It just says in 2020.
Well, how could you know about COVID?
I don't make the rules. I'm just going by the book, and the
That's-
book says one thing.
That's
And we'll
very
see.
that's very letter of the law, Dan. I don't like that. Let's go with the spirit of the rule, please.
Well, okay.
We can just go back and listen to our podcast too to find out all the things we've said.
That's true.
but it's hard to
We're never gonna do that.
find them.
I have a hard enough finding it in the episode. Never mind going to an episode or which episode and then where in it. There's not a lot of bets in there. We need to do more bets. People love betting. That's the thing.
Well, the other thing that's tough about that is like none of the audience, our listeners have never heard like any of those bets like follow through. It was just like, yeah, put it in the book, and then we never talk about it again.
Yeah, that's right.
So
So what you got to do is do it a bunch, and then at the end of the year, you just do a recap where you go over all the bets at the end of the year.
yeah.
We already have an end of the year show designed around that.
I don't know. All right, I'm gonna go to bed though.
All right, it's past the end
Yeah.
of time.
It is.
Okay.
See you later.
See you guys.
All right, Lates. You see, we got a downgrade in our one of the, yeah, but that's not surprising because we provide them no value. Yeah. Yep. I begrudge nobody for that.